What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can automate an influencer marketing agency using make.com. Let's get started. I've outlined all the processes for an influencer marketing agency that we're going to automate using make.com. The first process is capturing leads via Typeform and adding the leads to a project management tool, which in this case we're going to use monday.com. After we have added a new lead to Monday, we're going to automatically trigger a personalized confirmation email on Typeform. We're also asking the lead to schedule for a discovery call. On the call, we'll try to understand the client's goals, target audience, budget, and create a high-level campaign strategy, which includes campaign goals, KPIs, and brand messaging. The next process that we're going to automate for an influencer marketing agency is a client onboarding process. Here, we are going to generate a contract and send it to our client for signing. We're also going to trigger our payment automation and send an invoice to our client. Besides sending the contract and the invoice, we're also going to create a folder and share it with our client for them to upload all the assets we're going to need for our campaign. And lastly, we are going to create a Slack channel for communication purposes with our client. The next process that we're going to automate for an influencer marketing agency is the influencer discovery process, where in this process, we're going to find influencers whose followers match the target audience by setting up workflows that automatically pull data from Twitter, TikTok, or Instagram. So on this automation, we are going to scrape relevant influencer profiles and brand leads based on hashtags, bios, or follow accounts. And then we're going to collect all this data and add this data on monday.com. After scraping our influencers from social media, the next thing we'll do is we'll initiate contacts with these influencers. We'll discuss the deliverables, negotiate fees, and answer influencer questions. We're also going to formalize agreements with our influencers, covering usage rights, timelines, and disclosure requirements. So this process will be a manual process. After we have initiated contact with our influencer and our influencer agrees to work with us, the next process that we're going to automate is the contract and payment process. Where here, after the influencer has agreed for a deal, a contract is automatically generated and sent to this influencer for signing. We're also going to trigger our Stripe payments, and we're going to send them the contract via an email. After we have automated the contract and payment process for our influencer, the next process we're going to automate is the campaign setup and coordination. Here, we're going to automate the creation of a detailed brief for influencer. We're going to include the brand guidelines, key messaging, and content guidelines in our brief. We're also going to create a content plan that we're going to send to our influencer with a brief. And the last thing that we're going to include on our email, we're going to tell the influencer that the client has uploaded all the necessary assets in their Google Drive clients folder. So that is the folder they're going to get all the necessary creatives like their logos, product samples, and etc. What will happen next is the influencer will create the content. And after the influencer has created the content, he or she will submit the draft of the content according to the brief and upload the content to a specific folder on our Google Drive. After the influencer has created the content and uploaded the content to a Google Drive folder, the next process that we're going to automate is the content submission and approval process. Now, on the content submission and approval process, we are going to send the client an email notifying them that the content has already been created and uploaded on our Google Drive clients folder. And then on the email, we're going to also ask them to take a look at the content and approve the content for posting and publishing on the agreed upon time. The next process that we're going to automate for an influencer marketing agency is the campaign execution process. After the client has approved the content that we just shared on our Google Drive folder, we are going to coordinate with the influencer to publish the content according to the campaign timeline. So here we're going to send them an email telling them to schedule and post the content. We're also going to tell them to boost high-performing content through paid ads if that is included in our strategy. The next process that we're going to automate for an influencer marketing agency is the campaign wrap-up and follow-up process. Here, we are going to send an email to our influencer regarding content rights transfer to ensure that content usage rights are adhered to the post-campaign. On the email, we're also going to gather feedback from our influencers for future improvements. And the last process that we're going to automate for an influencer marketing agency is the post-campaign feedback collection, where here, after the campaign wraps, we're going to automatically send feedback requests to our clients. And then we're going to funnel their responses to our CRM. Now, on this automation, we can also create a scheduling link that we're going to send to our client with the email to review the results and discuss potential of ongoing collaborations. These are all the processes that we're going to automate for an influencer marketing agency. We're going to start by automating the first process, which is capturing leads via Typeform and adding the leads to Monday.com. On Monday, I've created a workspace and renamed it to Influencer Marketing Workspace. On this workspace, I have created two boards. The first board is called Influencer Clients. So here is where we're going to collect all our clients from our websites as emails or referrals. We're going to collect them via Typeform and add them right here. Here we're going to collect their full name. We're going to assign them to a member of our team. We're going to collect their date created, their last updated, their status. Their status, in this case, we have intake, onboard client, send approval, and send feedback as the status of each of our clients. We're also going to collect their first name, last name, company name, email, and their phone number. We also have another board where we're collecting all our influencers. We're going to set up an automation on Make to scrape influencers and add them to this board right here, where we're collecting their full name or their username on TikTok. We're also collecting the date we created them, the last time we updated them. We're also collecting their status. Their status, in this case, we have intake, send contract, campaign setup, post content, and campaign wrap up as the status of each of our influencers. We're also collecting their details like their following, their followers, the number of likes they have on their accounts, the number of videos they have posted, their TikTok profile links, and their email addresses right here. On our clients list, we are going to add our clients after they're filled in a form on our website or on our ads. I've created our form on Typeform and renamed our form to Influencer Marketing Agency Lead Capture Form. Here, we are collecting their personal information like their first name, last name, phone number, email, and the company they work in. We are also asking them to schedule a discovery call to see if we can be able to help them. Their personal information that we are collecting on our Typeform is the information that we're going to add to our clients list over here by creating an automation on Make.com that will automatically add our list from Typeform to Monday.com over here. So on Make.com, I've created a folder and renamed the folder to Influencer Marketing Agency System. Here's where we're going to create all the automations that are going to automate all the processes for an influencer marketing agency. Here, we'll start by creating an automation that adds the leads from Typeform to Monday.com. I'll click on Create a New Scenario. I've renamed our scenario to Add Client Info to Monday.com via Typeform. So here, the first thing we'll do, we're going to search for Typeform. Here, we're going to watch responses from Typeform. So we're going to choose either of these two options. So the first one with ACID only, you'll have to choose when you like to trigger automation. But the watch response trigger with the instant and ACID, it automatically triggers after the client or lead has submitted their form. But since I would like to choose when to start, I'll click on the watch response ACID. Here, you'll need to create a connection between Make.com and Typeform by clicking on Add and then renaming your connection right here. And after you have renamed your connection, click on Save, and a new window will be prompted where you'll choose the account that you'd like to link to Make.com. But since I had already created a connection, I'm going to close and then choose my connection right here. Now, after choosing my connection, I'm going to choose our form. Our form, in this case, we're going to choose the Influencer Marketing Agency Lead Capture Form, and then click on OK. Now you can see here we are choosing when we'd like to start. You can choose either from now, from a specific date, or choose manually. Yeah, I like to choose from now and click on OK. After we get our responses, I would like to list our responses first before we add the lead to Monday.com. So here, I'll first of all go on Tools and then click on Sleep. And here we can delay for 3 seconds so we can list our responses on Typeform. So here on Typeform, I'll click on List Responses. Here, I'll choose our form. Our form in this case is Influencer Marketing Agency Lead Capture Form. For the limit, you can choose 1 and then click on OK. Now, to fill in our form on Typeform, I'll click on Share. And then here, I'll copy the link of our form and paste it on a new tab. And then here, I'll click on Start, and we can fill in the personal information of our example lead or client. Here, we can enter the first name of our lead, let's say Kevin Smith. Here we can add their phone number, their email address. The email address could be on the lines of kevinsmith@annex.com. Then we can see they work at Annex. And here, I'll click on OK. Then here, we'll need to schedule for a discovery call to see if we can help our client. So here I'll choose a date and the time. And here you can see the name of our client and their email. Now to schedule the event, I'll click on schedule event. And then after we have scheduled the event, we're getting this thank you message right here telling them to check out the email for confirmation email. Here on Make, we're going to run our automation. And you can see right here that we're getting the data of our client right here. So we're getting their first name, their last name, phone number, email, company they're working in, and the event that they just scheduled on Typeform. And then with link for 3 seconds and listing our responses right here. Now with our data right here, we can add them to monday.com. So here I'll search for Monday. Then on Monday, I'll search for create an item. Then click on create an item module. Like we did previously with Typeform, you'll also need to link your monday.com account with make.com. You'll do that by clicking on add and then renaming your connection right here. And you'll need to also add your API key over here. To get your API key on Monday, click on your profile and then click on administration, then click on connection and then API. Here, you'll find the API token. All you have to do is just copy it, come and paste your API key right here, and then click on save. And your connection will be created. But since I had already created our connection, I'm going to close and choose my connection right here. For the item name, we can use the first name and the last name of our client. So here, I'll add the first name, then space, and then add the last name of our client. For the board ID, we're going to, since these are clients, we're going to add them to our influencer clients board. For the group, we're going to choose clients list, and now we can add values to the columns on Monday. Now for the first column, we're going to choose assignee. Here, we're going to choose person and then assign myself to this client. So I'll assign myself right here. Then I'll add another item and choose another column. This time around, I'm going to choose company. And we can add the value for the company right here. Add another item and choose another column. This time around, we're going to choose the date created column and add the submitted add date. Choose another item. And then for the column ID, I'm going to choose email. Then we can add the value for the email by adding Kevin Smith's email right here. We can also choose the email value as a text. So we can add the text right here. Then add a new item. And then for this time around, we're going to choose first name as our column. Add the value for first name, which is Kevin. And then add a new item. Choose another column. This time around, we're going to choose the last name as our column. Then add the value for our last name, which is Smith. And click on add a new item. And then choose phone number. And then here we'll add the value for phone number. For the country code, we can say, we're going to say US, that's our country code. Add a new item. And then we're going to choose the status as our column. Then for the value, we're going to choose label and label it as intake. And then click on OK. To add our previous submission to Monday, I'm going to choose where to start and then choose manually. Here I'm going to choose from our previous submission that we just did, and click on OK, and then run our automation. You can see that we chose our previous submission right here, and we added them on Monday. Now, on Monday, you'll see that we just added a new client right here. His name is Kevin Smith. We just added them right now. The status is intake. We're also collecting their first name, last name, company name, their email, and their phone number right here. We can also send them a confirmation email right here. So here, I'll search for emails and click on email, then click on send an email. Here, I'll rename this email to confirmation email. And then click on OK. Our email, we're going to add the email address that the client submitted on our form. And then the subject line of our emails could be in the lines of discovery call scheduled. Let's plan your campaign. And for the content of the email, we're saying hi, first name, then including the first name right here. Then we're saying, thank you for completing our form and scheduling a discovery call with Influential Impact Agency. We are thrilled to learn more about your vision and to collaborate on creating a standout influencer campaign tailored to your brand. In our upcoming call, we'll dive into the details of your goals, target audience, and budget to build a high-level campaign strategy. We'll outline your campaign objectives, KPIs, and brand messaging to ensure every detail aligns with your brand's identity and objectives. Then we are concluding the email by saying, if you have any additional information you'd like to share before the call, feel free to reply here. We look forward to connecting and mapping out the strategy that drives real impact. Warm regards, Jordan Smith, Account Manager at Influential Impact Agency. So this is the confirmation email that we are sending them after they have submitted their information on our form. And we're also including all these break tags on our email to avoid our email being sent as one giant paragraph. So here, I'll click on OK. And to see if we're going to send them the confirmation email, I'll choose to start from our previous submission. But before that, we can delete the previous submission that we added on Monday. And here, we'll choose our previous submission, then click on OK, and then run automation again. And you can see that we sent them the confirmation email right here. And on Monday, we added Kevin Smith as one of our clients over here. And the confirmation email that we're sending them has a subject line, discovery call scheduled, let's plan your campaign. And then this is the content of the email that we are sending to our client over here. So with this simple automation, we've automated the first process for an influencer marketing agency. What happens next is you're going to get on a call with a client where you're going to understand their goals, target audience, their budget, and then create a high-level campaign strategy for them. Now, if the client agrees to work with you, you're going to onboard them. The next process that we're going to automate for an influencer marketing agency is the client onboarding process. On our influencer marketing agency system folder, I'll create a new scenario. I'll rename the scenario to client onboarding system, where here, I'm going to create a webhook that will be triggered after the status of one of our clients changes to onboard client. So here, I'll click on webhooks, then click on custom webhook. Here, I'll click on add and then rename our webhook to client onboarding webhook. And then here I'll click on save. And here, I'll copy the link of our webhook and then click on OK. On Monday, I'll click on integrate. I'll click on webhooks. And we'd like to send our webhook after the status of one of our clients changes to something. So I'll use this as our template. And then here, I'll click on use another account and paste the webhook URL that we just copied on Make. So I'll paste our webhook. And then on Monday, I'll run our webhook. And then here, I'll click on connect. It says fail to communicate with the URL provided. So here we'll need to return these challenge text using a webhook response. So on webhooks, I'll click on webhook response. And here, I'll write challenge right here. And then here, I'll return this text. And then click on OK. Then I'll run our webhook again. Then on Monday, I'll click on connect. You can see that it ran successfully. You can delete the response. And then on Monday, I'll set up our webhook. So we like to send our webhook when the status of one of our clients changes to onboard client. Then click on create automation. Now here we can test if our webhook works perfectly. So I'll run it. Then on Monday, I'll change the status of one of our clients to onboard client. You can see that it ran successfully, and we're getting the specific client whose status we just changed. So here, I'll copy this pulse ID. Now, because we're not getting the rest of their data right here, like their email address, their phone number, their company name, I'm going to search for Monday and search for get an item module. Click on get an item module, choose our connection, and then for the ID, we're going to add the pulse ID right here. Then for the board ID, we are going to choose influencer clients, since we're onboarding our clients, and then click on OK. Now here, I'll run this module by pasting the pulse ID that we just copied from our webhook and click on OK. And then here you can see now we're getting the rest of the information right here, like their first name, last name, company name, email, and their phone number. Now with their details, we can begin creating our client onboarding automation. On PandaDoc, I've created an influencer client contract. This is an example contract that we're going to send to our client for them to sign as we onboard them. So here's where we're going to add our signature, and the client is going to add their signature right here. On Make, I'm going to get our client contract from PandaDoc. So I'll search for PandaDoc, then click on Get a Document. You'll also need to create a connection between Make.com and PandaDoc. To create a connection, just click on Add, and then here, you'll rename your connection, and then click on Save, and then a new window will be prompted where you will choose the account that you'd like to link to Make. But since I had already created a connection, I'm going to close and then choose my connection right here. Here, we'll need to add our document ID. So we'll need to add the ID of this document right here. To get the document ID, we're going to get it from the URL. So here, on our URL, we'll copy the last part of our URL. This is the unique ID of this document. So I'll copy it. And then on Make, I'll paste the ID right here and click on OK. Now we can run this module and see if we're going to get our contract. So you can see we're getting our client contract right here. So here I'm going to rename this to get client contract and then click on OK. After we get the client's contract, we're going to download the contract. So I'll search for the download document module on PandaDoc. And then for the document ID, we're going to add the ID of our document right here. Then click on OK. Now I'll rename this module to download client contract. Now, after getting and downloading our client contract, we're going to create a client asset folder. So here, I'll search for Google Drive. I'll click on create a folder. On Google Drive, here, we'll choose our folder location. I'll choose onboarding. Then we can give our folder a name. So I'll rename our folder to our client's first names asset folder and click on OK. And here we can rename it to client's asset folder and click on OK. Now, we're also going to create a Slack channel for communication. So I'll search for Slack and then search for create a channel module. Like we did previously, you'll need to also create a connection between Slack and Make.com and then add the name of our channel. So here we can add the first name of our client here and then click on OK. And then after creating our Slack channel, we can create our client on Stripe. So we can create a payment intent and then create an invoice and send them the invoice via email. So here I'll search for Stripe. Then I'm going to create a customer. For the description, we can say influencer marketing services. For the email address, we're going to get the email address from Monday. So on emails, I'm going to choose the email address right here. Then their name, we're going to add their first name. Phone number, we're going to add their phone number from over here. Then you can fill in all these other details if you have their details and click on OK. Now after creating our customer, we're going to create a payment intent for our client. So I'll click on the create a payment intent module. Now for the amount, we can add the amount that we are charging them. You can say in this case, we're charging them $2,000. Now one thing you need to note is the amount that you add right here will be in cents. So you'll need to add 2 extra zeros to convert the amount into dollars. So the 200,000 right here represent $2,000. For the currency, we're using USD as our currency. You can add the description as influencer marketing services. For the recipient email, you can add the email address from Monday right here. And then here, you can add the payment method types, confirm the payment intent, and the customer ID. Now for the customer ID, we're going to get it from our create a customer module. You can choose a payment method right here. But I'm going to just leave everything as is and then click on OK. And now we can create an invoice and send them the invoice via email. So on Stripe, I'm going to search for invoice and click on create an invoice. For the customer ID, we're going to add the customer ID from the create a customer module. For the collection method, you can choose to charge automatically or send an invoice. If you're going to choose to send an invoice, we'll need to add the days until due. Let's say 3 days. You can also add the due date right here, add the description. As influencer marketing services, and then we can click on OK. We can proceed and send them the contract, the client's asset folder, and the invoice via email. So here, I'll search for email and then click on send an email module. Now, for the email address, we're going to add our client's email address from Monday. The subject line of our email could be on the lines of welcome to Influential Impact Agency. Here is everything you need to get started. Then the content of the email, we're saying hi, first name. We are including the first name right here. The rest of the email could be on the lines of we are thrilled to officially begin our journey together and can't wait to start working with you on your campaign. To kick things off, here's everything you need to review and access. The first one is the contract. We will tell them, please review and sign the contract to your own convenience. You can access it here. Then we are adding our contract from the download a document module where we're going to add the file name right here. And the second thing we are telling them to check out is the client folder, where we are telling them that we have set up a dedicated Google Drive folder to keep all project documents and assets organized. And then here we're telling them access your folder here. And then the link of our folder will be the web view link. The third thing that we're telling them is we have created a private Slack channel for easy communication and quick updates toward the project. We're also telling them that you're going to receive an invitation shortly if you haven't already. And then the fourth thing that we're sending them is the invoice, where we're telling them, for your convenience, we've sent an invoice via Stripe where you can complete the payments. If you didn't receive the invoice yet, use this link. And then here we're going to add our invoice link right here. Then we're concluding the email by saying, if you have any questions or need help with any of the links, please feel free to reach out. We're here to make this process as smooth as possible and are excited to start collaborating. Warm regards, Jordan. And then I'll click on OK. I'll rename this to onboarding email. And then click on OK. We can also set up another module to remind our client to complete their invoice after it's already passed the due date. So here on Stripe, I'll search for invoice and click on search on the invoice module. Here you can add the customer ID. We're going to get the customer ID after we've created them right here. The status, we're going to choose open, and then the collection method we can choose to charge automatically and limit it to 1. Then click on OK. And then here we can send them a payment email reminder. So here I'll rename this email to payment email reminder. Then click on OK. Now for our email address, we're going to add our email address from Monday. So on Monday, I'm going to click on email, then add our email address right here. And then the subject line of the email could be the lines of payment reminder, invoice, past due. Then the content of the email, we're going to say hi, first name. I wanted to follow up regarding our outstanding invoice for your project, which was due yesterday. So we're going to send this email 1 day after the due date. And then we're telling them, it looks like the payment has not been received yet. For your convenience, here's a link to the invoice. Then we're going to add the Stripe invoice right here. So we're going to get the Stripe invoice after we have searched for the invoice, and then conclude the email by saying, please submit the payment at your earliest convenience to avoid any delays in our work together. If you have already made payment, please disregard this email. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or need assistance. Thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. Best regards, Jordan, and click on OK. Now here we can set up a filter to make sure that these two emails are not sent at the same time. So here we can label it to payment reminder and set up the first condition. So the first condition, the client has to have outstanding amount that they haven't yet paid. So here we're going to add the condition that the amount due has to exist. And then here we can add another condition and say that the date should equal to, and then on date and time we're going to add days. And then here we can add due date. We can add 1 day. So 1 day after the due date, we are going to send our payment reminder email to our client. Now to test if automation works, here I'll run our automation. And then on Monday, I'll change the status of one of our clients to onboard client. Here, you can see that our automation ran successfully. We triggered our webhook by changing the status of one of our clients to onboard client. Then we got their data right here. We got our client contract. We downloaded it. And then we created our clients asset folder. We created our clients Slack channel, created our customer on Stripe, created a payment intent, and created an invoice, and sent our client the contract, the asset folder, and the invoice via this onboarding email right here. So the email that we are sending to our client has a subject line, welcome to Influential Impact Agency. Here's everything you need to get started. So with this simple automation, we've automated their client onboarding process for an influencer marketing agency. The next process that we're going to automate for an influencer marketing agency is the influencer discovery process. In this process, we're going to find influencers whose followers match the target audience by setting up a workflow that automatically pulls all that data from TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter. In our case, we're going to use TikTok. So we'll scrape the relevant influencer profiles based on a hashtag, and then we're going to add all this data to our influencer list board on monday.com. On our influencer marketing agency system folder, I'll click on create a new scenario. Here, I'll rename our scenario to scraping influencers on Apify and adding them on Monday. So we're going to scrape influencers using this tool called Apify. Apify is an incredible tool with pre-built actors that you can use to scrape any website or automate projects. In our case, we like to scrape TikTok. So I'll search for TikTok right here and click on search. And here you'll find 87 tools that you can use to scrape a particular action on TikTok. So you can scrape profile data, scrape comments, you can scrape videos, you can scrape hashtags, you can scrape search, profile search, user profile, you can scrape TikTok ads, you can scrape live streams. In our case, we like to scrape TikTok using a hashtag. So here, I'll choose TikTok hashtag scraper tool. Now here, for example, we can scrape a hashtag like this one called fashion blogger. Then we can outline the maximum post per hashtag, say 20. And then now to scrape influencers who use the hashtag fashion blogger, I'll click on start. You can see right here that our tool is running and the actor is getting our data. You can see that we scraped 20 influencers who use the hashtag fashion blogger on their posts. So here we are getting their avatar or their profile photo, their username, we're getting their likes count, their shares count, their play count, their comment count, the duration of the video, the music on the video, the music author. And then we're also getting the video URL on that use the hashtag fashion blogger. Now, since our TikTok hashtag scraper tool is scraping for us TikTok influencers in our niche, we can set up an automation on make.com that will automatically scrape for us influencers from TikTok and add them to our monday.com tool. On Make, here, I'll search for Appify, then click on Run an Actor module. Here, you'll need to create a connection between Appify and make.com. To do that, just click on Add, then rename your connection right here, then add your API token from Appify over here. To get your API token, on Appify, click on Setting, and then click on API and Integration. And here you'll find your personal API token. All you have to do is just copy it, and then on Make, come and paste your API token right here. But since I had already created a connection, I'm going to close and choose my connection right here. Here we'll choose our tool. So here we'll choose our tool. Our tool is a TikTok hashtag scraper tool. Here, I'm going to choose to run synchronously by clicking on yes. Then we'll need to input our JSON right here. To get our JSON on our TikTok hashtag scraper tool, you'll see where it says manual and JSON. Click on the JSON. Here, copy our JSON. We'll need to add our JSON to our JSON formatter tool. So I'll choose this JSON formatter tool and paste our JSON right here. And then to format our JSON, I'll click on process. And then after our JSON has been formatted, I'll copy our JSON. And then on Make, I'll paste our JSON right here. So we are scraping a fashion blogger hashtag and we like only 20 results. Leave the rest as empty. And then here, click on OK. After we've scraped our influencers, we'll need to get them using the get dataset item. Here, we'll need to add our dataset ID, which we'll get from the default dataset ID right here. Here we can choose a limit. Let's say we would like to limit it to 10. Here I'll click on OK. Here, we can try now to scrape our influencers from Appify and get all their data right here. Now, to scrape influencers using Appify, I'll run it. You can see that our status was a success and we scraped TikTok influencers who use the hashtag fashion blogger on their posts. And then on our get dataset item, we are getting all those posts, including the account users information. So like we are getting their name, their profile URL, we're getting their Instagram, their bio, their avatar image, we're getting their following, their followers, their likes, the videos they have posted. We're also getting the information about the posts they use hashtag fashion blogger on their captions. We're getting the likes, the shares, the plays, the comment count of the post. And we are getting only 10 posts since right here we limited it to 10. After scraping our influencers and getting them over here, we can proceed to add them to our monday.com influencer list board. On Monday, I'll click on the influencers board. Here's where we are collecting our influencers. So we are collecting their full name, the date we created them, the last time we updated them, their status, the number of their following, the number of their followers, the number of their likes, the number of videos they have posted, their profile link. We're going to get their email address after we've made contact with the influencer, then we can add it right here. I'll delete the previous influencers that I had added earlier. On automation here, I'll search for Monday and then search for create an item. Click on create an item module. I'll choose our connection. For the item name, we're going to add the username of our influencer that we just scraped. You can add their nickname or their name right here. I'm going to choose to add their nickname. For the board ID, I'm going to choose influencers. For the group ID, I'm going to choose influencers list. And here, we can choose now the columns that we like to add their values on Monday. So the first column that we're going to choose is the date created. And for the date, we can add the date we scrape them on Happify. Then we can add a new item and add a new column. Here we can choose the followers. And then for the value, we are going to add their fans. And then add a new item and choose a new column. Sometimes we're going to choose following. We can add their following value. Then here we can add a new item and choose a new column. We can add a new item, choose a new column, and choose likes, and we can add the value for their likes. And we can add a new item, choose a new column. We can add the number of videos that they have posted. And then for the value, we can add the number of videos, and then add a new item, and then choose a new column. We can add the influencer profile link. Then we can add the URL right here. The value for the URL will be the profile URL. We can also add details of our text right here. And lastly, we can add their status. Choose the status. And then you can choose to label it. And we can label it as intake and then click on OK. Here, we can set up a filter to ensure that we are only getting influencers with a huge following. We can label our filter to follower count. We're saying the condition, their number of fans has to be greater than, let's say we want influencers with more than 100,000 followers. So their account has to have more than 100,000 followers. And then here we're going to click on OK. Now to scrape influencers and only add the influencers with a huge following to our Monday.com tool, here I'll run automation again. You can see that automation ran successfully. Here, the success was a success, and we scraped influencers that use the fashion blogger hashtag over here and added them to Monday.com over here. When we go to our influencers board on Monday, on the influencers list, you'll see the new influencers that we just added on Monday.com. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 influencers that we just added on Monday. And the condition that we set right here was that our influencers had to have more than 100,000 followers. So you can see all the influencers that we just added here have more than 100,000 followers on TikTok. And we filtered using this condition right here. So out of the 10 influencers that we scraped, we have only 5 influencers that have more than 100,000 followers on their accounts, and we are adding our influencers on our influencers list board on Monday. With this simple automation, we've automated scraping influencers on Happify and adding them on Monday.com. So we have automated the influencer discovery process for an influencer marketing agency. The next step will be to initiate contact with these influencers. After initiating contact, you will discuss the deliverables. You will also answer any questions that the influencer might have. You also formalize on agreements with the influencer covering the usage rights, timelines, and disclosure requirements. Now, after making the initial contact with these influencers, you'll come back to our board right here and add the rest of your data like their email, their first name, their last name. You can add all that data on our board right here after you have initiated contact with these influencers. After initiating contact with our influencers and discussing deliverables, negotiating fees, and answering any of their questions, and assuming that you got the rest of your data like their first name and their email, and you have already added their information on our influencers list, now we can proceed in automating the other process that we can automate for an influencer marketing agency, which is automating the contracts and payment process. Here, After the influencer has agreed to a deal, we are going to generate a contract and send them the contract for them to sign. We are also going to initiate Stripe payments automatically. So on our influencer marketing agency system folder, I'll click on create a new scenario. I'll rename our scenario to automate influencer contracts and payments. And here, I'll create a webhook that is triggered after we change the status of one of our influencers to send contract. So here, I'll search for webhooks, then click on custom webhook. I'll rename our webhook to influencer contracts and payment, and then click on save. Here, I'll copy the link of our webhook and click on OK. And then on our influencers board, I'll click on integrate. And here, I'll click on webhooks. Then we'd like to send a webhook after the status of one of our clients changes to something. So I'll use this as our template. And here I'll use another account and paste the URL that we just copied on our webhook right here. And here I'll run our webhook and then click on connect. Here it says failed, communicate with the URL provided. So here we'll need to return this challenge text using a webhook response. So here I'll search for webhooks, then click on webhook response. And then here I'll write challenge. And here I'll add our text and click on OK. And now I'll run our webhook again. And on Monday I'll click on connect. You can see that it ran successfully. You can delete the response and set up our webhook. So here we'd like to send our webhook when the status of one of our influencers changes to send contract. And then I'll click on create automation. Now let us test if our webhook works properly. So I'll run our webhook. And then I'll change the status of one of our influencers to send contract. It ran successfully. And we're getting the specific influencer whose status we just changed, but we're not getting the rest of their data, like their email, their follow count, their following. So now to get the rest of their data here, I'll copy their post ID. And then on Monday, I'll search for get an item module. Click on get an item. Here I'll choose our connection. And for the ID, I'm going to add post ID. And then for the board ID, I'm going to choose influencers as our board ID. Then click on OK. Now let us run this module by pasting the post ID that we copied from our webhook. Now you can see that we're getting the rest of their data here. On PandaDoc, I've created an influencer contract that we're going to send our influencers. So this is a template that we can customize and send the document for them to sign. So here's where we'll add our signature, and the influencer will add their signature right here. Now to get this influencer contract template, on Make, I'll search for PandaDoc, and then I'll search for get a document module. Here, I'll choose my connection, and I'll add the document ID. So the ID of this document, we are going to get it from our URL. Now, on our URL right here, we'll copy the last part of our URL. This is a unique ID of this document. So I'll copy it. And then on Make, I'll paste the unique ID right here. Then click on OK. Now let us see if we run this module, we're going to get our contract. So you can see we're getting our influencer contract right here. We can download it. So on PandaDoc, I'll click on download the document module. And then here you can add the document ID from our get a document module. And then here, I'm going to rename it to get contract. And click on OK. And here I'm going to rename it to download contract. I'm going to click on OK. Now here, we can now create our influencer on Stripe. So on Stripe, I'll click on create a customer. Here we're going to add the description as influencer marketing services. And then we can add the email address. The email address, we're going to get the email address from Monday. So I'll click on influencer and then email. And I'll use the email address which we're going to get right here. For their name, we're going to use their name. I'll click on OK. Now after creating our influencer on Stripe, we're going to create a payment intent. On our create a payment module, we can add the amount right here. For example, we can say $2,000. Like we did previously, we'll need to add 2 extra zeros to convert this amount into dollars. And for the currency, we're using USD. You can add a description like influencer marketing services. Then we can add the recipient email. The recipient email, we're going to get the recipient email from our module right here. And then we can choose to add our customer ID. So the customer ID, we're going to get it after we create them on Stripe. And then here I'll click on OK. And now we can send them the contract via email. So here I'll search for email, then click on send an email module. With the email address, we're going to get the email address from Monday. So here we're going to use the influencer email address that we're going to update on Monday. And then the subject line of our email could be on the lines of welcome to the campaign. Let's make an impact together. And the content of the email could be on the lines of hi, name. So here we're going to add their name. Then we're going to say, we're excited to officially welcome you to, then the name of the campaign, with Influential Impact Agency. We are thrilled to have you on board, and I look forward to creating something incredible together. To kick things off, please review and sign our contract to get started. You can access it here. And then here, we'll add our contract. After we've downloaded it, we'll send our influencer the contract as a PDF file. The rest of our email could be on the lines of, these outlines all the details, including campaign expectations, deliverables, and timeline. If you have any questions about the contract or the campaign, do not hesitate to reach out. We're here to make this partnership seamless and impactful as possible. Welcome to the team. Let's make an impact. Best regards, Jordan. And click on OK. Then I'll rename this email to send contract email. Then click on OK. Now to test if automation works perfectly, I'll run it. Then on Monday, I'll change the status of one of our influencers to send contract. Here, you can see that automation ran successfully. We triggered the webhook after we changed the status of one of our influencers to send contract. Then we got their data right here. We got our contract. We downloaded it. We created a payment intent, and we sent the influencer the contract via this email right here. The email has a subject line, welcome to the campaign. Let's make an impact together. And then this is the email that we are sending to our influencer with the contract right here for them to sign. So with this simple automation that we just created, we are automating the influencers, contracts, and payment process for an influencer marketing agency. The next process that we're going to automate for an influencer marketing agency is the campaign setup and coordination process. On this process, we are going to create a detailed brief for our influencers, including the brand guidelines, key messaging, and content guidelines. We're also going to send them a content planning document where we are specifying the content types, for example, reels, stories, posts, hashtags, call to actions, and posting schedules. We're also going to notify our influencers the location of all of our assets on our Google Drive folder. So to automate this process, on our influencer marketing agency system folder, I'll click on create a new scenario. Here, I'll create a webhook that will be triggered after we change the status of one of our influencers to campaign setup. So on Make, I'll search for webhooks, then click on custom webhook. Here I'll click on add, and then I'll rename our webhook to campaign setup and coordination. And then here I'll click on save. Then here I'll copy the link of our webhook and click on OK. Now, on Monday, on our influencers board, I'll click on integrate. Here I'll click on webhooks. I would like to send a webhook when the status of one of our influencers changes to something, so I'll use this as a template. And here I'll use another account and paste the webhook URL that we copied from our webhook. Here, I'll run our webhook. And then on Monday, I'll click on connect. It says fail to communicate with the URL provided. Like we did previously, we're going to return these challenge text. So here, I'll search for webhooks, then click on webhook response. Then here, write challenge right here. Here I'll add the challenge text and click on OK. Now I'll run our webhook again, and then on Monday I'll click on connect. Here it runs successfully, so I'll delete our webhook response. And then on Monday I'll set up our webhook. So I'd like to send our webhook when the status of one of our influencers changes to campaign setup, and click on create automation. Now let us test if our webhook works properly. So I'll run our webhook. Then on Monday I'll change the status of one of our influencers to campaign setup. You can see that it runs successfully, and we got the specific influencer whose status we just changed. Now let us get the rest of their data. So to get the rest of their data, we're going to copy this pulse ID. Then here I'll search for Monday and search for get an item module. Click on get an item. Here I'll choose our connection. Then for the ID, I'm going to add our pulse ID. And then for the board ID, I'm going to choose influencers as our board ID. Then click on OK. Now I'll run this module by pasting our pulse ID right here and clicking on OK. Now you can see we're getting the rest of the data right here. On PandaDoc, I've created a brand brief document that I'll send to our influencer. So here we have the brand story, brand mission, brand values, target audience, brand tone and voice, graphic guidelines, logo for digital communication, logo for print communication, logo use, color palette, and the sign off part on our document. On automation, we're going to get this brand brief on PandaDoc. So here I'll search for PandaDoc and get a document. Here I'll choose our connection, and then here we'll need to add the ID of our document. So the ID of our document, we are going to get it from our URL. So right here on our URL, we are going to copy the last part on our URL. So this part right here, this is a unique ID of our brief document. So I'll copy it, and then on make, I'll paste the ID right here and click on OK. Now here I'll run this module and see if we're going to get our document. You can see here we're getting our brand brief document right here. Now we can download it and send it to our influencer. So on PandaDoc, I'll click on download a document module. Then here I'll add our document ID and then click on OK. And then here I'll rename this module to get brief document. And then click on OK. And then here I'll rename this module to download brief document, and then click on OK. Besides sending our client the brief document, we can also send our client a content planning document. So on Google Docs, I've created a content planning document for, and then we're inserting our influencer's name. So this contains the overview of the content, the campaign goals, the content themes and guidelines, the deliverables and timing, key messaging point, posting guidelines, content review and feedback, and the payment and reporting. So this could be the content planning document that we're sending to our influencer. So this document is in our Google Drive folder. So to get our document here, I'll search for Google Drive, then click on search for files. Yeah, I'm going to choose a folder. Our folder is going to be files. So this is where we're going to get our document. Now we're going to retrieve both files and folders, and we're going to perform a full text search. And then here for the query, we can add the name of our document, which is content planning document. And then here I'll limit it to 1 since we only want one document, then click on OK. Now let us run this module and see if we're going to get our document. So here you can see we're getting our content planning document, which is amazing. So here I'll rename this module to get content planning doc, then click on OK. And now here we can create a shareable link for a content planning document. So I'll search for Google Drive, then click on get a share link module. And for the file ID, I'm going to add this file ID right here. For the role, you can either choose owner, writer, commenter, or reader. I'm going to choose reader. And then here for the type, I'm going to say anyone with the link. and then click on OK. And here, I'll rename our module to content planning doc-link and then click on OK. Now here, we can add another module and send our client the brief document and the content planning document. So here, I'll search for email and click on send an email module. We're going to add our email address from Monday. So on our influencer email, we're going to add the email here. And then the subject line of this email could be on the lines of your campaign content plan and brand brief. And here we can add hi. Then we're going to add the name right here. We're excited to have you on board for the campaign, and then we are going to add the name of the campaign with the brand. To make sure you have everything you need for a successful campaign, we've put together a few key resources. Number one is the content planning document. We're telling this document outlines the campaign's objectives, themes, deliverables, and posting guidelines to help guide your content creation. You can view the document right here. So for the content planning document, we're getting it from our get shareable link right here, from the get a share link module. And the second document that we're sending them is a brand brief document, and telling them this document includes the essential information about the brand's voice, tone, and style, along with important messaging points to keep in mind. And then they can access the document right here. So we're going to, after we've downloaded the document, we're going to add the file name right here and send them the document as a PDF. And then number three, we're telling them all necessary assets, including the logos, product images, and etc., are available in client's Google Drive folder. Please review these resources and let us know if you have any questions. We're here to support you in creating content that resonates with your audience and meet campaign goals. Looking forward to seeing your unique take on this. Best regards, Jordan. Then click on OK. I'll rename this to campaign setup email and then click on OK. Now, to test if automation works perfectly, I'll run automation. Then on Monday, I'll change the status of one of our clients to campaign setup. Here, you can see that automation ran successfully. Then we got the client's data, we got the brief from PandaDoc, we downloaded it, then we got our content planning document from our Google Drive folder, created a shareable link, then we sent the brief document and the content planning document to our influencer via his email. The subject line of the email is your campaign content plan and brand brief. Here's the email that we are sending to our influencer. So the content planning document, this is the link to the document, and the brand brief document, this is a link to the brand brief document right here. So with this simple automation, we've automated the campaign setup and coordination process for an influencer marketing agency. Now the next thing, the influencer will go ahead and create and submit the drafts of the content according to the brief. The next process that we're going to automate for an influencer marketing agency is a content submission and approval process. On this stage, the influencer will submit the content via a Google Drive. Once the content is uploaded, we'll trigger a notification for the revision of the content to speed up the approval process. We're going to create an automation that sends an email to our client asking them to approve the content for posting and publishing on an agreed upon date. Now, to create an automation that sends our client an approval email on our influencer marketing agency system folder, I'll click on create a new scenario. I'll rename our scenario to content submission and approval. Now, since we are sending our email to our client, I'm going to go back to our influencer client's board. We'll create a webhook that is triggered after the status of one of our clients changes to send approval. So on make, I'll search for webhooks and click on custom webhook. And here, I'll click on add. Then I'll rename our webhook to content submission and approval and click on save. Here, I'll copy the link of our webhook and click on OK. Now, on Monday, I'll click on integrate. Then click on webhooks. And here, I'll send a webhook after the status of one of our clients changes to something. So I'll use this as our template. And then here, I'll use another account and paste the webhook URL that we just copied. And then here, I'll run our webhook. And then on Monday, I'll click on connect. It says fail to communicate with the URL provided. So here we'll return this challenge text using a webhook response. So on webhooks, I'll click on webhook response, and here I'll write challenge over here, and then click on challenge, and then click on OK. Now here I'll run our webhook. Then on Monday, I'll click on connect. You can see it ran successfully. Yeah, we can delete the response. Then set up our webhook. So we'd like to send our webhook after the status of one of our clients changes to send approval. Then here I'll click on create automation. Now let us test if our webhook works perfectly. So I'll run it. Then on Monday, I'll change the status of one of our clients to send approval. So here you can see the specific client whose status we just changed. We were not getting the rest of their data. So to get the rest of their data, I'll copy this post ID. And then on Monday, I'll search for get an item module and click on get an item. And then here for the ID, we're going to add their pulse ID. Then for their board ID, we're going to add influencer clients as a board ID. Then click on OK. Now here we can run this module by pasting the post ID that we copied on our webhook. And you can see we're getting the rest of their data right here. So we're getting their first name, last name, company name, email, and their phone number. Now we can proceed and create an email that we're going to send to our client, asking them to approve for the content that the influencer created for the content to be scheduled and posted. So here I'll search for email, click on send an email module. Here I'll rename this email to client approval email. And then click on OK. Now for client approval email, we're going to add the email address for Monday right here. The subject line could be in the lines of content approval needed for your campaign. And then the content of the email could be in the lines of hi, first name. We hope you are as excited as we are to see your campaign come to life. We've prepared the content as discussed and it's ready for your review and feedback. Once approved, will be set to publish on the agreed upon dates. You can access all the content in your dedicated Google Drive folder. Please take a look and let us know if there are any adjustments needed or simply approve it as is. If you have any questions or additional feedback, feel free to reach out. We're looking forward to your input to ensure everything aligns with your vision. Best regards, Jordan. And then here I'll click on OK. Test if it's working. I'll run it. And here I'll change the status of one of our clients to send approval. You can see we triggered our webhook and we sent our client this email here. Yeah, content approval needed for your campaign, and this is the content of the email that we're sending to our client. This simple automation, we've automated the content submission and approval process for our influencer marketing agency. After the client has approved the content, we're going to automate the campaign execution process. Here, we're going to notify the influencers to publish the content according to the campaign timeline. We can also ask them to post high-performing content through paid ads if that is included in our strategy. Now, to automate the campaign execution process, on our influencer marketing agency system folder, I'll click on create a new scenario. And then I'll rename our scenario to campaign scheduling and posting. Notifying our influencers, I'm going to go to our influencers list on our influencers board. So here, I'll create a webhook on make that is triggered after we change the status of one of our influencers to post content. So on make, I'll search for webhooks, then click on custom webhook. Here I'll click on add. Then I'll rename our webhook to campaign scheduling and posting, and then click on save. Here I'll copy the link of our webhook, then click on OK. And then on Monday, I'll click on integrate. Then here I'll click on webhooks. Here, we'd like to send a webhook after the status of one of our influencers changes to something, so I'll use this as our template. And then here I'll use another account and paste the URL that we just copied right here. And here, I'll run our webhook. Then on Monday, I'll click on connect. It says fail to communicate the URL provided. So we'll need to return the challenge text using a webhook response. So here I'll write challenge. And then here I'll return the tags. And then click on OK. Then I'll run our webhook again. Then on Monday, I'll click on connect. You can see it ran successfully, so we can delete the response. Then on Monday, I'll set up a webhook where I would like to send a webhook after the status of one of our influencers changes to post content. Then click on create automation. Now here, you can test if our webhook works perfectly by running it. And then on Monday, I'll change the status of one of our influencers to post content. You can see that it's running successfully and we're getting the specific influencer whose status we just changed. And now here, I'll copy this pulse ID so we can get the rest of their data. So on Monday, I'll search for get an item module and click on get an item. And here, I'll choose our connection. Then for the ID, I'm going to choose pulse ID as our ID. And for the board ID, I'm going to choose influencers as our board ID. Click on OK. And then here, I'll run this module by pasting our post ID that we just copied on our webhook right here and click on OK. Now you can see we're getting the rest of their data here. And then here now we can create an email that we're going to send to our influencer, telling them to schedule and post the content. So here, I'll search for email, then click on send an email module. I'll rename this email to campaign scheduling reminder. Then click on OK. For email address, we're going to get our email address from Monday. The subject line could be in the lines of content publishing, timeline, and boosting strategy for, and then we add in the campaign name. And then for the content of the email that we're sending to our influencer could be in the lines of hi name. We're reaching out to confirm the schedule for publishing content for, and then we're inserting the name of the campaign. Sticking to the timeline is the key to maximizing engagement. So please let us know if you foresee any changes with the agreed upon dates. Additionally, for posts that perform well, we may boost the content through paid ads to amplify reach. If boosting is included in the strategy, our team will handle it directly, and you'll be able to see those results in the campaign metrics. Thank you for your collaboration and dedication to making this campaign a success. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or need further clarifications. Best regards, Jordan. And here I'll click on OK. Now here, and then to test if our automation works perfectly, I'll run it. Then here I'll change the status of one of our influencers to post content. You can see that automation ran successfully. Trigger our webhook by changing the status of one of our influencers to post content. And we're getting their personal information right here, where we're using their information to send them this email right here. So with this simple automation, we've automated the campaign execution process. The next process that we're going to automate for an influencer marketing agency is a campaign wrap-up and follow-up process with our influencers. So here, we're going to send an email notification to our influencer regarding content rights transfer to ensure that the content usage rights are adhered to post-campaign. We're also going to ask our influencers for feedback for future improvements in our services. So in our influencer marketing agency system folder, I'll click on create a new scenario. I'll rename our scenario to campaign wrap-up and follow-up. And here, I'll create a webhook that is triggered after we change the status of one of our influencers to campaign wrap-up. So here, I'll search for webhook, then click on custom webhook. And here, I'll click on add, and then I'll rename our webhook to campaign wrap-up. And then here, I'll click on save. And then I'll copy the link of our webhook and click on OK. And then on Monday, on our influencers board, I'll click on integrate. Here I'll click on webhook. I'd like to send a webhook after the status of one of our clients changes to something, so I'll use this as our template. And then here I'll use another account, and then I'll paste the webhook URL that we just copied on Make. And then here, and then I'll run our webhook on Make. Then on Monday I'll click on connect. It says fail to communicate with the URL provided. So here we'll need to return the challenge text we did previously using a webhook response. Here I'll write challenge. And then here I'll add the text. And then click on OK. And then here I'll run our webhook again. Then on Monday I'll click on connect. You can see it ran successfully, so I'll delete our response. Then on Monday, I'd like to send a webhook after the status changes to campaign wrap-up. Then here I'll click on create automation. And then here now we can test if our webhook works properly. So I'll run our webhook and change one of our influencers status to campaign wrap-up. can see it running successfully, and we're getting the specific influencer whose status we just changed. So to get the rest of their data, so we can send them an email notification. I'll copy this pulse ID. And then here on Monday, I'm going to search for get an item module and click on get an item. For the ID, I'm going to allow pulse ID. Then for the board ID, I'm going to choose influencers as our board ID and click on OK. Now I'll run this module by pasting the pulse ID that we copied from our webhook and click on OK. You can see we're getting the rest of the information right here. I've created an influencers feedback survey on Typeform, where here we are asking them a series of questions where they will give us feedback of our services. The first question we're asking them is how satisfied were you with our services? They will rate us from 0 to 10. We're also asking them how likely are you to recommend our services? They're going to also rate us from 0 to 10. And then we're asking them how well did we communicate throughout the project? And then they can type in their answer over here. Then we're also asking them, is there anything else you'd like to share about your experience with our services? They're going to type in their answer here. And lastly, we're asking them, do you have any suggestion for improving our services? And then they can type in their answer over here. To get this form on Make, here, I'll click on Share. And on the link of this form, we're going to copy the last part of our link. That will be the unique ID of this survey form. So back to our automation, here, I'm going to search for Typeform. Then here, I'm going to get a form. I'm going to add the unique ID that we just copied from our form right here. And then here, I'm going to rename this form to Influencer Survey Form. And then here, I'll click on OK. We are going to send our influencer the survey form via email. So here, I'll search for email, then click on Send an Email module. Here, I'll rename our email to Campaign Wrap-Up Email. And click on OK. Now, for our Campaign Wrap-Up email, we're going to add the email address from Monday. Here. And then the subject line could be on the lines of Content Rights and Feedback Survey 4, and then we're adding the campaign name. And then the content of the email could be on the lines of Hi, influencer name. Thank you for your amazing work on the campaign name. And then here we're going to add the campaign name. We've received a fantastic feedback and are thrilled with the content you created. As part of our post-campaign wrap-up, we'd like to confirm that the content usage rights are adhered to per our agreement. If there are any specifics we need to revisit, please let us know to ensure proper usage. Additionally, we'd love to gather your insights on working with us to improve future collaborations. Your feedback is invaluable, and we'd be grateful if you could take a few minutes to complete a short survey here. Then here we're going to add the link to our survey form right here. The link will be on the display link right here. We are concluding the email by saying, thank you again for your partnership and creativity. We look forward to more collaborations in the future. Best regards, Jordan. And then here, I'll click on OK. And now to test if automation works perfectly, I'll run it. And then on Monday, I'll change the status of to campaign wrap-up. Now, here, you can see that automation ran successfully. We triggered our webhook after we changed the status of one of our influencers to campaign wrap-up. Then here we're getting the data, and we're also getting our survey form that we created on Typeform right here, and sending the form to our influencer via this email right here. So this is the subject line of our email, and this is the content of the email that we're sending to our influencer. So the form, the link to the form that for them to fill in is this link right here. So with this simple automation, we've automated the campaign wrap-up and follow-up process with our influencer. Now, the last process that we'll automate for an influencer marketing agency is a post-campaign feedback collection from our clients, where here we'll automatically send them feedback requests, and then we can funnel the responses to our database. We'll also send the client a scheduling link for them to schedule a call to review the results and discuss the potential for an ongoing collaboration. To automate the post feedback collection from our clients, on our influencer marketing agency system folder, I'll click on create a new scenario. I'll rename our scenario to post campaign feedback collection. Here, I'll create a webhook that is triggered after we change the status of one of our clients on Monday, so here I'll click on influencer clients, changes to send feedback. So here I'll click on webhooks and click on custom webhooks. Here I'll click on add, and then here I'll rename our webhook to post campaign feedback collection, and then here I'll click on save, and here I'll copy the link of our webhook, and then I'll click on OK. On Monday I'll click on integrate, and then here I'll click on webhooks, and I'd like to send a webhook after the status of one of our clients changes to something, so I'll use this as our template. Here I'll use another account, and here I'll paste the webhook URL that we just copied from Make. And then on Make I'll run our webhook, and then on Monday I'll click on connect. So it's failed to communicate with the URL provider, so here we'll need to return this challenge text using a webhook response. So on webhooks I'll click on webhook response, and then here I'll write challenge here, and then here I'll add our text, click on OK, and then here I'll run our webhook again. Then on Monday I'll click on connect, and see that it runs successfully. Now we can delete the response since we have connected our webhook. Then here I'd like to send a webhook when our status changes to send feedback, and I'll click on create automation. Now let us test if our webhook is working properly. So I'll run a webhook, and then I'll change the status of one of our clients to send feedback. You can see that we are getting the specific client whose status we just changed. Now to get the rest of the data, I'll copy this pulse ID, and then here I'll search for Monday and search for get an item module, and click on get an item module. Now for the ID, we're going to add our pulse ID, and then for the board ID, we're going to add influencer clients as our board ID, and then here I'll click on OK. Then now here we can run this module by pasting the pulse ID that we just copied right here. See if our module works perfectly. Now you can see now we're getting the rest of their data right here. So we're getting their first name, last name, company name, email, and their phone number. So the first thing we'll do here I'll search for Calendly, and then click on Calendly. Then here I'm going to create a scheduling link, and here we can choose the maximum event count. Here I'll add 1, and then here we can choose our event type. Now since this is a closing call, I'm going to choose the closing call event type, then click on OK. I'll rename this module to results review call, then click on OK. Now besides sending them the scheduling link, we can also send them a survey link for them to give us feedback of our services. I've created a survey form via Typeform. So here I'll search for Typeform, then click on get a form. To get the ID on Typeform, I've created an influencer clients feedback survey form. Here we're getting feedback of our services from our clients. We're asking them how satisfied were with our services. Then they can rate us from 0 to 10. We're also asking them how likely are you to recommend our services to others. Then they can rate us from 0 to 10. We're also asking them how well did we communicate throughout the project. And then they're going to type in their answers. And then we're also asking them, is there anything else you'd like to share about your experience with our services? And then they can type in their answers over here. And lastly, we're asking them, do you have any suggestion for improving our services? And then they can type in their answers right here. Now, to get the ID of this survey form, click on share. And then on our link, we're going to copy the last part of our link. So this is a unique ID of this form. So I'll copy it. Then on Make, I'll paste the unique ID over here. And here we can run this module and see if we're going to get our form. So you can see we're getting our influencer clients feedback survey, and the link that we're going to share with our client is this link here. And then here we can rename this module to client feedback survey, and click on OK. Here I'll search for email and click on send an email module. I'll rename this email to client feedback email and click on OK. And now For our email, we're going to add our email address from Monday. And then the subject line of our email could be the lines of post-campaign feedback and next steps for. And then we add in the campaign name. And then the content of our email could be the lines of hi first name. We excited to wrap up, and then we add in the campaign name and review the results with you. To help us continuously improve, would appreciate it if you could take a few moments to complete a brief feedback survey here. And here we're going to add the link to our survey form, which is this link over here. Your insights will be invaluable as we refine our approach to future campaigns. Additionally, we'd love to schedule a call to go over the campaign's performance, review key metrics, and discuss potential opportunities for ongoing collaboration. Please let us know a time that works best for you, or feel free to book a time directly on our calendar right here. So on Calendly, we'll add the booking URL here for them to schedule for a results review call. Then we're concluding the email by saying thank you for trusting us with your vision. We look forward to your feedback and to the chance to continue working together. Warm regards, Jordan. Then click on OK. Now to test if automation works perfectly, I'll run our automation. Then on Monday, I'll change the status of one of our clients to send feedback. You can see that our automation ran successfully. We triggered our webhook after we changed the status of one of our clients to send feedback. Then here we got their data, we created a scheduling link, and we got our survey form. And then on this email, we are sending our client the scheduling link and the link to our survey form for them to fill in. So this is the subject line of our email. This is the content of the email that we are sending to our client. So this is a link for our survey form, which they will fill in and give us feedback of our services. And then this is the Calendly link that they're going to use to schedule for a results review call. And so with this simple automation, we've automated the post campaign and feedback collection from our clients. These are the processes that we are automating for an influencer marketing agency. First automation that we created is an automation that automates the process of collecting leads via Typeform from various sources like websites, referrals, emails, or ads, and adding the leads to monday.com. And then we're also sending them a confirmation email address using this simple automation right here. Now, the second automation that we are setting up is a client onboarding system, where we are sending our client a contract, an asset folder, and an invoice using this onboarding email. We're also sending the client a payment reminder email after the due date has passed and they haven't yet cleared their invoice. And the third automation that we are creating is an automation that scrapes influencers using Appify and adding those influencers on monday.com. And the fourth automation that we are creating is an automation that automates the process of sending our influencers a contract for them to sign. So here we're getting our contract from PandaDoc and downloading it and sending it to our influencer using this send contract email. And the fifth process that we are automating for an influencer marketing agency is a campaign setup and coordination process, where we are sending our influencer the brief document that we created on PandaDoc and the content planning document that is in our Google Drive folder, and sending both the brief document and the content planning document to our influencer using this campaign setup email. Now, the sixth process that we're automating for an influencer marketing agency is a content submission and approval process, where here we are creating a webhook that is triggered after the status of one of our clients changes to send approval, where we are sending this approval email to our client for them to approve the content that the influencer created. And the seventh process that we're automating is a campaign scheduling and posting process, where in this automation, we are notifying our influencers to post the content according to the schedule that we created. Eighth process that we're automating for an influencer marketing agency is a campaign wrap-up and follow-up process, where here we are sending our influencer a survey form to give us feedback on our services using this campaign wrap-up email. And the last process that we are automating for an influencer marketing agency is a post-campaign and feedback collection from our clients process, where here we are sending our clients a scheduling link and a feedback survey form via this client feedback email right here. So here they will schedule for a results review call and give us feedback of our services. These are all the automations that we have created, automating all the processes for an influencer marketing agency. If you have a system or an automation in mind that you'd like for me to create, just comment down below. And if I land on your comment and I find it intriguing, I'll come back on a future video showing you how to create the entire automation or system from scratch. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.